My name is Clara, and I am 68 years old, living a quiet life in Vienna, the city of music that has always been my truest companion. Most mornings begin with the gentle chime of the church bells echoing through my small apartment, a sound as familiar and comforting as the whisper of my own breath. I make myself a cup of strong coffee, just the way my late husband, Leopold, used to make it, and I sit by the window, watching the city awaken. I used to be a professional violinist, traveling to grand concert halls, feeling the vibrant energy of an orchestra surge through me. Now my days are filled with smaller rhythms, watering the geraniums on my windowsill, knitting scarves for the local charity, and sometimes, just sometimes, opening my old violin case. That violin, an antique beauty with a warm, amber glow, is a relic of a life that feels both yesterday and a lifetime ago. It was Leopold's gift to me when I secured my first chair in the Vienna Philharmonic. It is sung for emperors and common folk, echoed in cathedrals and cozy theaters, and it holds more memories than I could ever count. But retired life, I've found, is not always the peaceful melody I imagined. My pension, though steady, barely stretches to cover the rising costs of living in such a beautiful, bustling city. There are always choices to be made. New glasses or a slightly warmer coat for the winter, fresh vegetables, or the occasional small indulgence like a pastry from the bakery down the street. It's a quiet struggle, one I mostly keep to myself, a silent worry that hums beneath the surface of my otherwise calm demeanor. The real challenge, though, isn't just the tightening purse strings, it's the whisper of doubt that sometimes creeps in late at night. Did my music matter? Will I be remembered? Has my purpose, my song, truly ended? That feeling of being forgotten, of having outlived my most vibrant self, that is my internal nemesis, a quiet dread that tries to steal the light from my days. I started taking longer walks, partly for exercise, partly to save on the heating bill at home, and partly just to feel connected to the vibrant pulse of Vienna. One afternoon, near the Stadtpark, I saw him. A boy, no older than 10 or 11, sitting on a park bench. He wasn't playing on a phone or chasing pigeons. He held a small, plastic toy violin, its bright primary colors a stark contrast to the deep green of the grass and the ancient trees around him. His brow was furrowed in concentration, his small fingers carefully mimicking the movements of a real violinist, his head tilted as if listening to a magnificent, unheard symphony. No sound came from the toy, of course, just the soft rustle of leaves, but his passion was undeniable, a pure, unadulterated love for music. Something about him tugged at my heart, a warmth spreading through the quiet emptiness I often felt. I walked by him several times in the following weeks, always pretending not to notice him, always observing. Each time, he was there, lost in his silent performance. He was a spark, a reminder of what music truly meant, not just grand halls and applause, but pure, simple joy. I wanted to help him, to somehow give him the chance to make real music, but the idea felt impossible. I tried to find small ways to earn a little extra money. I put up a modest notice in the local community center, offering violin lessons, but no one called. I considered selling some old pieces of jewelry, keepsakes from Leopold, but each item held too many memories, too much of our shared life. It felt like selling pieces of my soul. The thought of selling my violin, the Stradivarius copy Leopold had given me, that was an idea I pushed deep down, almost violently, whenever it dared to surface. That violin was me. To sell it would be to erase decades of my identity. Yet, the financial pressures mounted. A pipe burst in my bathroom, requiring an unexpected and expensive repair. Then, a notice arrived from the power company, reminding me of an overdue bill. My quiet struggle was no longer quiet. It was a loud, insistent drumbeat in my ears. I felt a cold knot of despair tighten in my chest. What if I couldn't keep my home? What if all the memories, all the dignity I tried to maintain, simply crumbled away? I thought of the boy again, the one with the plastic violin, and the contrast between his boundless hope and my dwindling one felt like a physical blow. He deserved a chance, a real instrument, a voice for his music. I had considered selling my violin only for my own survival, but now a new, agonizing thought crept in. Could I sell it to help him, even if it meant truly letting go of my past? The idea was both horrifying and strangely compelling. I researched antique instrument dealers, feeling a sickness in my stomach with every click of the mouse. The quotes were disheartening. Without its original pedigree, my beautiful violin was valued far below what I needed to solve my problems. The world, it seemed, wasn't interested in the history it held, only in its marketable worth. This was my lowest point. I sat in my small living room, the violin case open on my lap, its smooth, polished wood reflecting the fading light. I ran my fingers over its curves, remembering the feel of its vibrations against my chin, the way it had sung for me with me. The instrument was not just wood and strings, it was my voice, my legacy, my truest friend. To sell it, knowing it wouldn't even be enough, knowing I would lose it and still be trapped in my financial quicksand, felt utterly meaningless. It was like shouting into a void and hearing no echo. The silence of my apartment felt crushing, amplifying my sense of helplessness and isolation. I felt ready to give up, not just on finding a solution, but on the very idea that things could ever truly get better for me, or even for that hopeful boy with his toy. The next morning, the gray light of dawn still felt heavy, but a different kind of thought had settled in my mind. It wasn't about selling the violin for money anymore. It was about something else entirely. I walked to the stud park, my old violin case clutched firmly in my hand. My heart was pounding, a strange mix of fear and an almost exhilarating sense of purpose. I saw him, the boy, already there, his plastic violin tucked under his chin, his small hand poised over its imaginary strings. He was playing with such intensity, such belief. I walked past him once, then twice, my eyes blurring slightly as I fought back tears. This was it. This was my moment of truth. My internal nemesis, the fear of being forgotten, of my music dying with me, suddenly transformed. My music wouldn't die if someone else played it, if it sparked a flame in another soul. It would live on. I sat down on the bench furthest from him, opened the case for one last look at my beautiful companion, its amber wood gleaming even in the muted morning light. I carefully lifted the violin out, took a deep, shuddering breath and placed it gently on the empty space beside him on his bench. Then I walked away. I didn't look back. I couldn't. Each step felt like a wrenching separation, yet also a powerful release. I heard a small gasp behind me, then silence. My heart ached, but beneath the ache was a blossoming warmth, a sense of lightness I hadn't felt in years. I didn't see the boy for several weeks. I worried. Had his parents been angry? Had someone else taken it? The doubt gnawed at me. But then, one crisp autumn afternoon, as I was walking through the park again, I heard it. A melody, hesitant at first, then flowing with increasing confidence, weaving its way through the rustling leaves. It was coming from the direction of the bandstand. My steps quickened. And there he was, the boy. He stood on the small stage, his posture straighter, his face alight with pure, unadulterated joy, and my violin, tucked under his chin. He wasn't playing perfectly, of course, but the sound was glorious, rich, resonant. It was music, real music. He saw me, standing at the edge of the small crowd that had gathered. His eyes met mine, and he offered a small, shy smile, a silent nod of recognition and gratitude. That was the beginning of my new normal. The boy, whose name I learned was Elias, sought me out a few days later, accompanied by his grandmother. They had found my address written on a small, worn tag inside the violin case, a tag Leopold had put there decades ago, in case I ever lost it. Elias' grandmother, a woman with kind eyes and a warm smile, was overwhelmed with gratitude. She explained that Elias had dreamed of playing the violin, but they could never afford an instrument or lessons. She insisted on paying me back, offering to clean my apartment, to run errands, to cook meals. I protested, but her insistence was as strong as my own when I had left the violin. I started giving Elias lessons. His progress was astounding, fueled by a passion that reminded me so much of my younger self. His grandmother, true to her word, became a dear friend, helping me with practical matters and filling my quiet apartment with laughter and the smell of freshly baked pastries. Suddenly, I wasn't so alone anymore. The small community of my street began to feel larger, warmer, connected. I started volunteering at the local community center, not to give music lessons, but to share stories of my performing days, to help organize small concerts for local talents, to encourage others. My greatest joy came a year later. Elias, now 12, stood on a much larger stage, this time at a small community concert, the kind of event I used to scoff at in my professional days, but now cherished more than any grand symphony. He played a piece I had composed in my youth, a quiet, hopeful melody I had almost forgotten, found among old sheets of music I had rediscovered during a tidy-up. He played it beautifully, pouring his whole heart into every note. As the final notes faded and the applause swelled, Elias looked directly at me in the audience, his eyes shining. It wasn't just my music living on, it was my purpose reborn. It was a twist of fate, a whisper from the universe, proving that sometimes, when you let go of what you think defines you, you open the door to a harmony more beautiful and profound than you could ever imagine, and that the greatest legacy isn't what you keep, but what you give away.